All right, today we're going to crack open a classic business case, one of those real head scratchers that top consulting firms just love. We're going to walk through how a top consultant would break down a problem that honestly looks impossible at first glance.
Okay, so let's get right to it. Picture this. Your company's profits, they're up 35%. I mean, that's incredible, right? Champagne for everyone. But at the very same time, your customer base has actually dropped by 2.5%. Wait, what? How is that even possible? This is exactly the kind of messy, high-stakes puzzle that big companies pay consultants millions to figure out.
So, who's our client in this scenario? We're talking about a major player here, the number 3 wireless carrier in the US, with a staggering 60 million customers. Yeah, this is no little startup. This is a huge, established company with a very, very weird problem on its hands.
So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll really get into the weeds of this paradox. Then we'll show you how to structure the problem just like a consultant would. After that, we'll put on our detective hats and dig into the data. And finally, we'll get to that aha moment, the key insight that solves the whole thing. All right, let's really set the scene. Because it's not just about these two numbers on a page, right? It's about what they mean in an industry that is super competitive, where you'd think every single customer is gold. And here's where it starts to get really alarming. Our client is losing 2.5% of its customers every single quarter. In the business, we call that churn. Now, the average for the industry? Just 1%. So, yeah, our client is losing customers more than twice as fast as everyone else. This isn't something happening to the whole market. This is a them problem, for sure. And that 2.5%, it's not just a statistic. We're talking about 1.5 million actual people who just left in just one quarter. To give you a sense of scale, that's basically like the entire city of Philadelphia just vanishing from your customer list in 3 months. It's a massive, massive number. Okay, so we've established the problem is huge and it's scary. But here's the thing about consultants. They don't panic. They don't just stare at the problem. They build a framework, a machine really, to tear it apart and solve it. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. And the absolute key to doing that is structure. The secret weapon here is a framework called MESS. It stands for Mutually Exclusive, Collectively Exhaustive. Sounds fancy, right? But it's actually super simple. Mutually exclusive just means you break the problem into buckets that don't overlap. Think internal problems versus external problems. You don't want to analyze the same thing twice. And collectively exhaustive, that just means that when you add up all your buckets, you've covered every single possibility. It's a super disciplined way to make sure you don't miss anything. So here's what that looks like in practice. We're going to split our investigation into 2 big buckets. Simple. Bucket 1, external factors. Is something happening out there in the market? Competitors doing something crazy? Bucket 2, internal factors. Is the call coming from inside the house? Is it our pricing, our network, something we're doing? See, this gives us a really clear roadmap. Okay, we've got our roadmap. Now where the fun part begins. It's time to follow the clues, test our ideas, and wait for that twist. Because in cases like this, there's always a twist. So let's start with that first bucket, external factors. Our first big question is, hey, maybe this isn't even our fault, right? Maybe the entire wireless industry is on fire and we're just getting burned along with everyone else. Let's see if the facts back that up. Well, the data tells a different story. And pretty quickly, this theory falls apart. Yeah, we lost 1.5 million customers, but the case also mentions we gained 2 million new ones, so we actually had a net gain. The industry isn't collapsing. But that still doesn't explain why our churn rate is so much higher than our competitors. So, conclusion, the problem is not external, it's gotta be something we're doing. Okay, so if it's not an outside problem, it's time to look in the mirror. We're moving to our second bucket, internal factors. The most obvious place to start is to ask, are we just messing up the fundamentals? And you can probably guess the usual suspects, right? Let's run down the list. Is our pricing bad? Is our network dropping calls all the time? Are other guys offering way cooler phones? Is our customer service a nightmare to deal with? Did we have some catastrophic network outage? I mean, these are the classic reasons people switch carriers. And this is where the case takes a really interesting turn. Because when you look at the data, yeah, there are some minor issues here and there, but the case specifically tells us all that stuff only accounts for a small portion of the losses. So
We've checked all the obvious boxes, and we've come up empty. We've basically hit a dead end. What on earth are we missing? And then you get the pivot, the question that flips the whole problem on its head. Imagine the interviewer leaning in and asking, what if you wanted to lose those customers? Whoa, just let that sink in for a second. Why would any company in its right mind want to lose 1.5 million customers? That single question completely reframes everything. Suddenly, we're not looking for a mistake to fix. We're looking for a deliberate strategy that we just don't understand yet. This is where the real insight happens. So, to get this, we need to talk about a little accounting term: bad debt. All it means is money you're owed that you're probably never going to get. A customer uses your service, gets a bill, and just disappears. Now you've already paid to provide the service, and you're going to have to pay even more to chase them down for the money. It's a total profit killer.
And that, right there, is the core of the problem. It turns out the company's single biggest out-of-control cost was bill collection. See, in their big push to grow, they got sloppy. They weren't checking credit scores properly. They were just signing up anybody and everybody, including tons of people who, frankly, were never going to pay their bills.
And boom, there's your aha moment. The real problem wasn't losing customers. The problem was acquiring unprofitable customers to begin with. They were spending a ton of money to bring people on board who were guaranteed to cost them more than they'd ever make.
And that solves our original paradox perfectly. Think about it. By either actively pushing out or just letting these non-paying, high-cost customers leave, the company saved a fortune. All that money they were spending on bill collectors and customer service for people who didn't pay, gone. The savings were so huge that profits just exploded by 35%, even while the total number of customers ticked down.
So once you have that insight, the recommendation is crystal clear. It's a simple 3-step plan. Step 1, stop the bleeding. Turn off the marketing spigot that's bringing in these unprofitable customers right now. Step 2, build a better filter. Put a much stricter credit check system in place so this never happens again. And step 3, focus on your best people. Take all that money you just saved and use it to keep your profitable customers happy. Simple, powerful, effective.
Which brings us to a really fascinating final thought. We're all taught that growth is everything, that you should never lose a customer. But this case shows us that's just not true. Not all customers are created equal. And it makes you wonder, in this obsessive chase for growth, is intentionally firing your worst customers actually one of the smartest things a business can do?